checking my connections and everything here. Just one moment. So you see me good? Great. And okay. Okay. Let's have a look here if it's silencing. Yeah, now it's silencing. Okay, so sorry about that. Technical. And to this second episode of my smartphone. And I'm glad to have you here again. And good evening and good day, good night, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome back to Stress and Purpose of Life. I'm your host, Stina, and I have a challenge for you guys. And if you joined me last week, you know that it has to do with ending the phone addiction, the smartphone addiction, and tuning to a kind of no smartphone. Can be another, another one as well. We are going to say a little bit about how to really actually find the peace and try to find the silence and be comfortable with that. So if you're new here, first of all, welcome to you, and I'm so glad you found this space. We are on a journey together, and a journey to letting go of stress and discovering true purpose. And for me, this past week has been a big challenge in that direction, because as you know, I started this 30 days ditch my smartphone challenge, and switching off my smartphone a little bit more and going to old-fashioned Nokia. And Nokia is quite difficult to use. I found it very difficult because, how do you use it? I mean, you of course you dial and you can easily use it for calling people, and that's the main purpose of a phone. But texting was quite difficult. I saw myself using my smartphone. I have a smartphone for my work, and I have a Nokia flat, so I still use a smartphone. So I was away from the smartphone, but my pride was calling and not texting or Snapchatting and whatever social media you use. So I want to take you with me on my first few days of this journey. As you know, I've done it for a week, and we started off together last week. And I would love you also to share your experience. You can do it on the chat box. First of all, I want to talk about the silence and being comfortable in silence. because we are used to not being comfortable in silence. We all have I mean, when you have a smartphone, you are always logged on, and every information that you get it if you want it. But I feel that at Nokia, I feel that it has been some kind of silence, something that changed within me and my mindset. So here's what surprised me. The first thing I noticed was, well, the freedom of, like, a lightness. I was not having something that was in my hands and felt heavy. And it was the discomfort actually lighting up my sense of fun. And it was a strange feeling. And also silence. It was quite difficult to silence on this phone. And I'm used to getting so much information to me. And now it was quite dead, actually. So when I had something on this, it was like I had gotten some texting from, if you have some subscription or something that you are subscribing to, you get it on the phone, or if you have a newsletter, it still was on the phone. So I will try to end that. Otherwise, it's people calling, but no, it's from the so it's a habit to just pick up your smartphone because you feel that happiness. So you need to have it on your hand. That I experienced, and that was quite easy to. It's in my hands now. Sure. Okay. Well, silence. We must be used to silence because silence is such an important thing. Practice in life, and we are all connected now, right? So it's threatening to feel silent. Like you're not, when you're not getting your what happened on your Facebook, knows the recognizing you're not getting your response that you want to. You get, and it's not normal. And that's where it hit me, because why is silence such a discomfort and uncomfortable for everybody? Is it because we are if we are like the species that we are meant to not be alone? We are meant to be connected to other people around us? Or is it something else? So actually I was the first was having my smartphone in my living room, and I was like, I'm not gonna have a smartphone. And it's such a ease, because then you really don't start the day off with scrolling. Instead, you go up, you take your coffee, and then you have your Nokia. It's silence, but you can switch on the television or whatever you want to do. But yeah, so it's quite difficult it's quite a habit that's in you to use a smartphone on a daily basis, and you are quite dependent on it. I actually discovered. I'm going to tell you more about that. So if you go through the silence again, then, because the sound is like, you want to hear the birds singing outside the window now in springtime, and the hum of the fridge is like, did you hear that, or did you just hear the noise of your smartphone, or did you actually have such a distraction in your mind that you didn't notice any noise around you? The crack of a chair, or whatever it is. And it has to do with being present in the moment. even tasting my coffee and feeling that, oh, this is really nice cup of coffee. And you don't do that if you have your smartphone and scrolling. And that's something that I really realized, that that's the biggest difference for me this week, that I actually enjoyed a cup of coffee, and I enjoyed not being dependent on the smartphone. And actually, okay, it's not that easy, because you come in situations that you really actually need the smartphone in today's life. And what do we do about that? So if you have some suggestion about that, how can we do that? How can we solve this problem when we are driving the car but we can't find the way and you don't have Google Maps? How do we solve that? How did we do it before we have Google Maps? How did we do that? I mean, we were sitting in the car and looking at the road and where we are heading. We're not used to that anymore. We're used to having it at the GPS and knowing the way for us. And actually also when paying something, in Sweden we have some kind of bank ID on our smartphones, and you don't have that on Nokia. So what do you do with the money? So please, can you just, if you have some tricks or comments or suggestions, how can we be less dependent on Nokia or smartphones and do the old-fashioned way with Nokia? How do we create that life to not be dependent on the smartphone anymore? So just give your suggestion in the chat and share with us, because it is something that we all are on this journey together, and I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about that? So just give your ideas about that. And really, it's like, honestly, I think it's so important that we talk about this, because the world is such a wonderful place, and being in the present moment is, I mean, we are not in the present moment anymore. Not that many times a day, sometimes. And the conversations, what I found was having conversations, the social interactions that we need as humans. That is the first thing that we need to work on when we start off with the Nokia, because then we have to call people. And when we call people, I can tell you, I love that, to call people, not just texting, because texting is like a distance. Or if you Snapchat, it's a distance, because you pick up the phone and call somebody and you hear the voice. It is such an other experience, and yeah, I love doing that again. And that was the biggest difference, that I realized that I am calling now more than otherwise I was texting, because I tried texting on this one. It's not easy. So, and I don't want to use my smartphone for texting. Okay, sometimes I do in some situations when it's really necessary. But I first of all call people, because I think it's more natural, and having a Nokia is better to do that. So what is your experience with that? Have you started off your journey? So let me on your journey, and let me know what you have experienced. We will have these episodes in 30 days period. So perhaps I get in early than next week as well, but otherwise we have one each week. And we, after 4 weeks, we see, okay, how is it going? Should we continue this? What could we do to adapt our new lifestyle so it's easier for us to not use a smartphone, and share our ideas about that. So, but let's not romanticize this too much, because of course it's such a moment that we are really dependent on the smartphone, and having a Nokia is not that easy in today's life. It's quite frustrating, right? Because as I told you, if you are lost somewhere and you're not having the Google Maps, we're not used to that anymore. So how do we solve that? Yeah. So what do you think about that? And also when we log on to different kind of we have things that we log on to on the smartphone to get access to different things. Could be declaring your income, or it could be transferring money. It could be, whatever. So there are some kind of little things that we really are so much dependent on the smartphone. So how do we solve that now? How do we do? Do you have a suggestion? Let me know. Because smartphone is like, it's not an evil thing. I don't think it's an evil thing to have a smartphone. It's actually very good to have a smartphone. But the thing is that we are so addicted to it today that it's better to be aware of it. Of course, you can have a smartphone. I don't say that you need to not have a smartphone. But I have both a smartphone and Nokia because I can choose then. I can choose if I want to have my smartphone on or I want to have my Nokia on. And of course, it is also possible to have some kind of detox episode where you can switch off your smartphone and only have it on battery decreased, so we only have the phone and the message on your smartphone. So you can do it that way as well. But I think it's easy to try it. Just try it a few times and see what you feel afterwards. So join me here on this challenge together with other people that are here and try it for 30 days. Some hours per day. Don't have to be totally 100% off smartphone, but just a couple of hours a day and see how we feel. And I mean, for you guys that are in groups, I mean, people that are joining here are both young people and older people and also mid-age. And I know that in school these days, you have so much groups that you need to be there in those online groups to know what they are talking about, to not feel left out. And for your parents also, if you're watching this, why don't you say to the people that are in those groups that why don't you start a new trend? Why don't you start off by using a Nokia and calling each other and trying to find other kind of social interactions that doesn't have to do with online only. Of course, you can have it online as well, but not too much. I was actually thinking, okay, I'm gonna when I have a daughter in the age of when it's time for her to get her smartphone, I'm perhaps going to give her Nokia, because I think it's a trend that is upgoing, that people are more interested in using the old-fashioned Nokia and getting logged off. And that's what I hope for, because today, as I told you, mental health is an issue around this area. Because, if you need to be connected and you need to be updated and you need to be in the group for the young people here watching, do you feel good in that situation? And are you stressed out, or are you feeling like, I don't want to have the phone today? I know many people are having those feelings, and it's very natural to have that, because it is stressful to always be connected and always get the information on what is going on, and know your own situation, of course. So what did I learn then in these days? And what did you learn if you have also started off this week? I can tell you one thing that I'm 100% sure of, that I am addicted to smartphones. I am dependent on smartphones, and I need to find solutions to become less dependent on them. The addiction is nothing that is addicted. It's the dependency. It's not an addiction. It's a dependency on it, because we are having easy when we have a smartphone. It's easier. Nokia is quite difficult and not that easy. So can we live without smartphone? I don't know, but we can live less with a smartphone. We can live more with calling, I guess, if you look at the whole day. And I really reflect on what I told you about silence and how we feel in silence. Are we comfortable in silence? And I know many of you watching are also meditating and doing the mindfulness exercises that I have, and also on other channels, of course. And yeah, we need to do more than that, I think. So it's not an enemy. Silence is something that we need to find and be comfortable in. Time and attention to focus on me. What do I want? Do I want to scroll every day? Do I want to use my time for something that it's not productive or it's not making me feel good? Because the smartphone often doesn't make us feel good. What we are reading or what we are talking about or what we are looking at, it's not the happy news that we are looking at. Most of the time it's negative news or negative information. And why don't we just switch off that? We don't need that, right? And also another thing, the world doesn't end if we're not logged on for an hour or 2 hours a day. It continues, right? The life continues. And perhaps you have those days when you are switched off a longer period in the day. Perhaps you have more productivity, more creativity, and also more joy in life. And being true to yourself, and also listening to yourself. What are you feeling? Your body is, how is your body reacting to not having those smartphone experiences? And how it can be such a huge change, I believe. Okay, so I realize now it's a question of noise, right? A lot of noise, right? So it's not a pling anymore that often. Unfortunately, I have like a smart watch. Okay, I need to put those it is connected to my smartphone. It's not that good because I do it for being healthy and running. So I actually need to find a way to switch that off. And then I also only use it to listen to music and running. So you can use it without being logged on and getting all those messages and notices and everything that notifications, and the reels or emails, whatever you get. You can switch that off. And that noise is, I think it's stressful if you get the pling every time, and we don't need that either, right? So it's no wonder we are stressful when we hear that. So I know many people are turning it off, and I also turned it off, but yeah. And you don't have that at all when you use this one. That is the silence, and it's the uncomfortable silence because we're used to getting those notifications. Because we get a kick out of it. We get the dopamine level that skyrockets. But perhaps we don't need that, That's my reflection of this week. So just in a few days, I feel more lightweight, and it was the first reaction that I actually felt when I just put my SIM card for my private phone in this one, and realized that people are calling now on this phone to me, and I was like, oh, well, it's that noise. Oh, it is this one. So it was quite easy, and it felt really the right choice. So try it. And we will few weeks, and also, of course, we can continue afterward those 30 days challenge, of course, if we need to. And I love you to join this because I think you want to find it quite interesting, and to also listen to other people's journey, and also that we do this together, being a team to help each other out, and also give ourselves tips and tricks on how we are doing, and what is our challenges, and how we solve them, and everything around that. So just maybe you can try it a few hours. Just try it 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe being free in the morning, no scrolling until you come to work, for example. And put your phone down in other room when you eat. Turn it off. No notifications for an hour. Whatever ideas or tricks or ways you can find to be logged off for a while and experience that. And silence is a good thing. And I think we need that more than ever. So wrap it up today. I want to leave you with a little reflection. And I want to hear your reflections as well. So please just put it on the chat box. What is your experience? And ask yourself this question. When was the last time you truly sat down in silence? And we're not talking meditation now. We're talking doing nothing. And for how long? And what is it that makes you want to scroll? And is it something that you're afraid of? If you stop scrolling and you stop putting, if you put the smartphone away and being in the silence, are you afraid of something then? What is you're afraid of in that situation? Are you want to miss out on your friends' conversations? Is that what your experiences as something that you're afraid of, or is it something else? And also, what do you think about this question? When you are quiet, what will your inner mind feel about that? And how would you think you will how will your stress levels decrease? And how will you be able to really realizing that, well, you maybe were not feeling that good when you had a smartphone in your hand every time and scrolling, and now you feel empty. But what is that emptiness? And what can we meet in that quiet emptiness? And I know this is just the beginning of our journey together, and to be honest, I actually think it has been quite difficult this week, and we need to find some kind of balance here to realize, okay, here's when I use my smartphone, when I really need to use my smartphone. Otherwise, I use it without notifications and all the access that you have with smartphone. You can use a Nokia as well. And when are we going to use a Nokia? When are we not going to use the Nokia and we need to have a smartphone? And also ask yourself this question. How can we, and I need to hear from you as well, because this is a difficult one. How can we solve this dependency that we have on the smartphone? On different kind of situations, as I told you, driving, finding the Google Maps, finding the way home. Yeah, way home is easy, but if we're going traveling, and how do we all the other access and logins that we need to have on the smartphone? How do we solve that if we have the Nokia? So please join me in on this. And if you have any questions, I will sit here for a while and answer them. So just thank you for today, and thank you for spending time with me again. And if this episode resonates with you, I love to hear from you and share your thoughts and also your experience with this digital detox that we are doing today together, and also what is silence for you, and what does not scrolling mean to you. And you can find me on YouTube here on this Stress and Purpose Life, and I also have the actual podcast here, but I also have it on Spotify. So you can reach out to me anywhere, and you also have my contacts in this on this channel if you want to reach out to me personally and share your experience. And until next time, I wish you a very pleasant evening, day, or morning, whatever time it is your day today. And also remember to take a deep breath and notice the silence, and try to scroll a little less and be more present in the real world. So I wish you all the wonderful, wonderful day today. And I will see you next time. And I think it will be in a week again. But perhaps I will log on to you earlier and see how it goes for you guys. And until next time. And I also have other episodes that you can watch also if you want to learn how to stress less and produce more, and how we can be more resilient in this life that we are living. So have a nice day, and I see you next time. Bye.